Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to our Rule the Waves Let's Play series, playing as the Confederacy. We are into 1917, we've just gotten out of yet another war, this one with the French, and according to the game, we won some minor concessions in that war. I'm not sure exactly what those concessions were, it doesn't really tell us, but with that being said, we are currently in a post-war budgetary phase, which means very little budget. Now, the good news is because we've conquered several territories, the industry's expanded, and perhaps because of these concessions, we actually have a much healthier budget than we used to. We started out the game kind of only larger than Japan in terms of our naval budget at peacetime strength, and now we're actually larger than Russia as well. So our naval budget has grown rather considerably, and actually France has shrunk somewhat. Great Britain, the United States, and Germany are all substantially ahead of us, and by this point in the game we have no real hope of catching their naval fleets, but that's okay, I'm not really worried about doing that. Somehow, this has been my first Confederate Let's Play series where I've had the ability to maintain peace with the United States throughout the whole point 17 years in. It makes sense, though, to me, because if the United States has the Philippines, as they do, and if the Confederates have Cuba, as they do, then clearly they must have been allied to each other in a war against Spain during the Spanish-American War, so presumably they're on relatively good terms, despite, obviously, the Confederacy breaking away United States. Now, at the end of our last video, at the conclusion of the war with France, we scrapped several obsolete vessels, and in fact, we only have one more pre-Dreadnought battleship left. Our heavy cruisers, with one exception, are all of the Neuhauser class, a brand new sort of cruiser-killing heavy cruiser class. A quasi-battle cruiser, if you will, and actually, my design is somewhat regrettable at this point because I designed it with the intent of hunting down and sinking the vast quantities of French armored cruisers and battleships, pre-Dreadnought battleships, which this ship would vastly outclass, slightly under class in terms of gun caliber, but in terms of the actual weight of metal thrown, you know, a pre-Dreadnought battleship of 4 12-inch guns wouldn't fare very well versus 10 10-inch guns. The belt armor was comparable to some French battleships, weaker than some. And roughly comparable to the French battle cruisers. The armament was weaker than the battle cruisers. But where I failed in this design was that the front and the aft of the ship both have a triple turret, but then we've got a secondary turret sort of along the center line, both forward and aft of the vessel, that are double turrets. If I had only thought, and I did this mainly so I could keep speed and armor up, but if I had decided, all right, we'll be 1 knot slower, for example, 27 knots, and I had put triple turrets in both of these, that would have actually been a much wiser move, because we just recently researched quality 0 12-inch guns. We had 12-inch guns before, but they were quality -1. But now that we have quality 0 12-inch guns, we could have actually done a refit for this heavy cruiser and put 12-inch guns on every one of these turrets. We still can, because you can upgrade in even increments. So if you've got an 11-inch gun, it can upgrade to 13. If you have a 10-inch gun, it can upgrade to 12. Now, the thing is, when you upgrade your gun caliber during a refit, however, you have to sacrifice 1 gun per turret. So if you have a 3-gun turret, you can upgrade it 2 inches to the next caliber up to a 12-inch gun, but then you can only have 2 guns in the turret. Having a single turret with a single gun in each of these would really weaken the ship. It would only have 6 12-inch guns, rather than what it could have been, which could have been 8 12-inch guns all along the center line, which would have been very competitive against even most of the battle cruisers, let alone the heavy cruisers. However, we didn't do it, and we weren't really able to easily cheat our way into a battle cruiser out of an armored cruiser, but it is what it is, and we'll maintain the Neuhauser class as it is sort of the backbone of the cruiser force of this Navy at this time. With that being said, we are currently building 10 destroyers of a new class, the Charles Morris class, and these are coming up on completion within the next 6 months. We have $8 million of funds in our bank. We have $8 million coming in every month that we're not spending. We've got $90 million in the bank, so it's time to rebuild the Confederate Navy now that we're at peace. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and build 10 more of these Charles Morris class destroyers. So we're building 20 destroyers now. We have 7 still in service. That'll give us a destroyer flotilla of about 27 destroyers, which is much better than where we're currently at with only 7, and is better than where we were before the massive post-war scrapping of our various vessels. With that being said, we're also going to go ahead and build more submarines, but we're also going to scrap some of these. So we've got some coastal subs from just a few years ago, but the coastal submarine really didn't prove all that useful against the French in our war. So we'll scrap those. That'll leave us with 16 mid-range, sort of middle duration submarines, medium-range subs. And what we're going to do there is we're actually going to build 14 more of those. So we're going to have a submarine flotilla of 30 subs once these are all completed. And they'll all be mid-range subs, so they'll all be much more capable at hunting down enemy merchantmen and dealing a substantial blow to the enemy commerce in a way that simply wasn't possible during the war against France, when the vast majority of our submarines, in fact all of them until the final year of the war, were coastal submarines. I'm convinced if we had the 30 or 40 subs that we had in the service, but they were all mid-range subs, that war would have gone very differently. As it is, our submarine force will be roughly on line with the rest of the navies of the world. Our destroyer flotilla will be extremely modern, and in fact will be larger than the French, but smaller than pretty much everybody else when these are all completed. That's fine, though. So that gives us a modern destroyer flotilla, a modern submarine flotilla that we're in the process of building. Now, we still have about $1 million a month left to spend. And we have a relatively small battlecruiser and battleship force. We also have an incredibly small light cruiser force. So I'm going to go ahead and design a light cruiser here to remedy the fact that we lost a huge proportion of our light cruisers in the last war. We're going to go ahead and auto-design the Shenandoah class. It will have quite a few, in fact, more than, that's 8 6-inch guns. It's going to be a light cruiser, so the armament breakdown is a little bit different. If you remember, we used to have protected cruisers, but now light cruisers are a thing, so that's what we have. I don't want them to be cramped accommodations, and I do want them to be long-ranged. So we're going to do both of those, which means we're going to have to make this a little bit bigger than maybe I would like. We'll make it a 6,000-ton light cruiser. It'll take less than 2 years to build, but it will be at about $1 million a month. And can we add another torpedo tube mount? Got 4 on here. And one more in the front of the vessel, so it'll have 5 torpedoes as well. It'll have really 3 3-inch guns. What's the point of that? Why does it add in increments of 2? Not have. Well, we can if we do it that way. That's weird. All right, so we'll have 6 3-inch guns in single-gun turrets with basically no armor. It's basically a gun shield. We'll have these 8 6-inch guns. It'll make 28 knots, so it'll be relatively fast. And it'll have a whole bunch of torpedo tubes. So that's going to be the Shenandoah class of light cruisers. 28 knots is a pretty good speed. 30 knots would be better, but it is what it is. Yes, go to the build dialog. How many of them are we going to build? Let's go ahead and build 6 of these things, which will be very expensive. But that's okay, because we've got $80 million in the bank, which means we can build, we'll finish the destroyers and before we run out of money, which will then give us enough money to finish these light cruisers. So we're going to build 6 light cruisers here, which is going to bring our cruiser flotilla up to a total of 10, which does put us in last place. The only other country that is anywhere near that is the French, who have 11, but we also ravaged their light cruiser force during the war, so they don't have much left of that to begin with. But it is what it is. You got to start rebuilding the Navy somewhere. So I think 10 light cruisers, 27 destroyers, 30 submarines, and a handful of capital warships is going to be the direction that we go for now. We're building larger docks. We may look at building a 14-inch dreadnought here in a few months, but we also have a really high unrest level, so if necessary, I will cave to political pressure and lower our naval budget as necessary. With that being said, it's January of 1917. Let's go ahead and move forward to the next month. Research breakthrough, turrets and gun mountings enables increased elevation. Okay. We'll actually kind of go toward mid-year or till some of these destroyers start commissioning. You can see those heavy cruisers of the Neuhauser class were really just coming into service as the war ends. Neuhauser, if you want to claim credit for that and say that you helped end the war, by all means do that. All right, so our destroyers are coming into service. We got some intelligence on the Nance class battlecruiser, which actually is good to know that it's slower than the Neuhauser class, which can make 28 knots. So, yeah, All right, so you can see the USA has crushed the rebels in Maine. Weird that the rebellion, like I feel like the rebellion started because it was a rebellion that we helped foment with sending a dissident to France, and I think it was trying to punish us, but I kind of feel like the game accidentally put the rebels in a place that is not part of the Confederacy because it's not one of the sort of the standard games. So I wonder if the Confederate rebellion can't happen, like if it always starts in Maine and just can't happen. I'm not sure. Okay, so as I was saying, we're in the process of building 10 more destroyers. The other 10 have already completed, and these light cruisers are also making quite a bit of progress. We're about 6 months in. Our submarines are a little bit less than half built, so the fleet is almost done there. Our funds are still in the red, but not as badly as they were before. We're into July of 1917. So I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to lay down just a few more of those light cruisers, the Shenandoah class. So we're building 6. Let's go ahead and build 4 more of those things. We need a new fleet of light cruisers, and I think that's the best way to do it. So go ahead and lay 4 more of those down, puts us way back in the black, gives us about 10 months worth of money, but we'll kind of do that. Meanwhile, Japan's interested in buying heavy shells from us for $4.5 million. Let's do it. I'm okay with doing that, as long as we get the additional money. Industrial production is booming, which gives us a little bit more budget. There's been internal upheaval in Java. The USA is apparently sending a force there to restore order, but it's likely they have far-reaching plans. Issue an ultimatum that'll increase tensions. Push for an international force that'll increase tensions less. I'm not going to raise tensions with the United States over Java. Every single time I've ever issued sort of an ultimatum to anybody, you can see the U.S. just took Java, apparently from the Dutch, because, you know, they don't exist in this game. But every single time I've ever sort of attempted to intervene in one of those situations, it's never succeeded. It's always failed. The Japanese government wants to sell reduction gear to us for $4.5 million. Yes. I'm a big fan of new technology. Technology is good. Have we discovered oil anywhere? Not quite sure. Oil, yes. Oh, okay, so we do have oil. That's good. That means we can start building oil. We probably should already be building oil-fired ships. French government wants to sell us superimposed X turrets on light cruisers. We need that technology. By all means. Now I should really be building a new light cruiser class before this light cruiser class completes. All right, let's get to January of 1918. Ooh, new naval guns, but they're -1 quality. So I don't know if quality 0 14-inch guns are better than 15-inch guns of -1. Not quite sure. All right, so industrial production's boosting and new docks are complete. The French government wants to sell us 13-inch guns with a quality of 1. Our current guns have a quality of -1. Sure, we need new guns. All right, so we are now into January of 1918. We have $5 million in the red in the bank. We have $29 million left in the sort of slush fund, if you will. Our destroyers will be done in a couple of months. Our light cruisers will start coming off the ways in about a year. The submarines are just about done as well, so the budget should get a lot better very soon. That makes me want to build and buy or something, a new something. So I'm debating here. Yeah, France is selling me tech even though we were just at war, right? So let's go ahead and design a new ship. We're going to design, we already designed a new battle or light cruiser, so we're going to go ahead and design a new battleship. We're going to call it the Lightning class. We'll call it the Lightning Dragon. Okay. We now have also the ability to have 5 centerline turrets, so screw this weird configuration. And let's do a forward. Forward superimposed. Aft superimposed. Aft centerline. Oh. And I don't want to do single gun turrets because those look weird. We'll do 14-inch guns. I think those are going to be more valuable than a 15-inch -1. I think. Well, we can actually figure that out. So I've got this handy-dandy invention called a pen. The 14-inch guns of 0 penetrate at 20K. They penetrate 11.7 and 3.4 of deck. We'll go down to 12. At 15, they do 14, 2.3, and 16, 1.6. So they penetrate less deck armor as the range decreases. Now, if we were to move this up to a 15-inch gun, the gun data would change so that at 20,000 yards, you would do 11.7, which is the same. You'd actually do 0.2 more of deck penetration. So at 20,000 yards, they outperform slightly. It's a marginal difference. It's really not noticeable. At 15,000, you actually have inferior belt penetration. It's 14 in the 14-inch gun. You get 13.8 and 2.6. You get better belt penetration on the 14-inch gun, but better deck armor penetration, just again slightly, on the 15-inch gun. At 12,000 yards, the performance of the 14-inch gun is actually superior. It penetrates at 16 versus 15 here. This penetrates better on deck. So the 15 seems to do better, likely due to sheer weight, regardless of gun quality, at shorter at deck penetration. But the 14 actually outperforms in 2 of the 3 categories that we measured at belt armor penetration. Just for shits and giggles, 8,000 yards is 18.1, 5,000 is 20.4. I didn't write those down. 20.4. So this actually outperforms. The 14-inch gun outperforms at short range 2, which we tend to find ourselves in. And frankly, it has longer overall range. So for that reason alone, we're going to go with the 14-inchers. A little bit less weight, a little bit less deck penetration, but better overall performance, I think. So we'll go with 12 14-inch guns. Those are going to be our key weaponry. We'll then go with 10 6-inch secondaries, I think, is kind of the right thing to do. Why is cross-deck fire? Well, that's because I don't want to do cross-deck fire. Okay. Can we put these in turrets yet? Have we designed that technology? No, we've still not designed the technology to put secondary guns in turrets on Battleship. I don't really care. We're going to do it anyway. We'll take the rate of fire penalty. We're also going to have 3-inch guns. We'll have 10 of those. Those will be in casemates. That's fine. So we'll have 10 6-inchers along the side. That's 5 on each side. And then we'll do 10 3-inchers in casemates to help fend off destroyers. Torpedo defense is 2. We're going to get rid of the accommodation from cramped to normal. The speed of the ship is going to be 24 knots, which is crazy fast, I think, for this era of a battleship. We're going to get rid of these torpedo tubes. All they do is take weight. There's really no reason to have torpedo tubes on a ship of this size. The belt armor is 13 inches, which is pretty damn good. Extended is 4 inches. Deck is 2.5. We're actually going to raise that up to 3. Deck extended, I don't care about. Turrets, we're going to raise up to 13 to match the belt. Turret top will match deck armor at 3. Secondaries, they're 6-inch guns. They don't need 7 inches of armor. We're going to drop that down to 5 inches to save a little weight. And then we're going to see how goddamn big we can make this thing because we're way overweight. So let's go ahead and see. We can build it up to 43,000 tons. I don't think I need to go quite that large. But you can see here, every 500 tons only marginally improves the weight remaining. So we may actually have to go nearly the full shebang. What if we make it 42,000 tons? Can we make it 25 knots? We can. Make it 26 knots? We can't. So we can't quite make it to 26 knots, which would be a frickin' speed demon of a battleship. But we can make it to 25 knots, medium ranged, and we can make this thing... we'll do 100 rounds per gun, main gun ammo, director fire. What if we drop these to 5-inch and make them 12? We'll make 12 of them. So we make 12 5-inchers. Yes, we can do that. I would rather have 5-inch guns in my secondaries rather than 6-inchers anyway. For whatever reason, I've got a soft spot for the 5-inch gun. Okay, so we'll have 12 3-inchers, 12 5-inchers, 100 rounds, 12 14-inch guns. Pretty good armor, I think. 13 inches and 26 knots. This thing is super fast. It's going to be a fast battleship, folks. It's going to be the Lightning Dragon. It will live up to its name. It's going to be insanely expensive. 4 million per month to build, which means we're only going to build 2 of them and probably have to like toggle pausing construction because look at this, negative 14 million right off the bat. So we're going to go ahead and pause the James Longstreet immediately, and that gives us 2 months worth of money at these rates, but these destroyers will start coming off the ways shortly, which should help alleviate some of that expense. All right, so we'll move forward 1 more month, and we've got a bunch of destroyers or a couple of destroyers coming off the ways. Improve shell quality, yes, but that means I have no money. All right, may have to pause the... I hate to pause you after 1 month of construction, Lightning Dragon, but we're going to have to do that until some of these other destroyers start coming on, which they are. We're still in the red, though. So max dock sizes expand by 1,000. Shipbuilding developed considerably and now on par with that of other nations. Good to know. So now we can build ships faster, given that our shipbuilding is improved, which I assume has something to do with the fact that we have built a lot of ships in a reasonably short period of time. So there apparently appears to be some political protests in the Confederacy, protesting the large naval budget, which is $296 million now, which puts us in... Well, Russia really picked up their game. They're going to have almost $100 million more than us. Our naval budget's the smallest of anyone, and yet our population is protesting. What the hell, guys? All right, so our subs are coming online as well. So a bunch of destroyers, a bunch of submarines. We can probably start resuming the Lightning Dragons here momentarily. We're also going to go ahead and scrap the THG. While I do like the idea of having my own ship in my own name, at 19 knots, it's going to be a hindrance in more so than anything in any battle that it's up in. So we'll scrap it for $600,000. It'll also free up a little bit of money monthly. Additionally, I don't know if it makes sense to have all of these ships in the active duty Navy. So I think some of these light cruisers are going to go ahead and be put into the reserve fleet. I think the heavy cruisers are expensive, so we're going to go ahead and put all but 2 of the new Hausers into the reserve fleet as well. And then we're going to go ahead and put the Rappahannock itself into mothballs, because it's going to be one of the least valuable ships in any eventual war. The Pride of the South and the South Carolina are both going to go into the reserve. Well, maybe... I don't know how I feel about reserve fleet, my actual battleships. All right, let's do this. I wish we could like mothball submarines. They cost a pretty penny. Destroyers are way cheaper than submarines. In any event. All right, so that gets us back to 2 million in the black, which means I'm going to go ahead and resume construction on the Lightning Dragon. Still not enough money here. They want to sell us the triple bottom for 4.2 million. Yes. Protests are held in more of our cities, demanding an end to excessive arms expenditures. Stop protesting. We're spending less than everybody else. I have no more money. All right, Lightning Dragon. You're going to have to wait a little bit. You're going to be obsolete before you come off the ways because we're not going to be able to fund anything. Internal upheaval in Sumatra. I have no desire to increase tensions with the United States at this time. The United States is taking... They must be... We'll just pretend that they're at war with the Dutch, because they're taking all of the Dutch colonies in the Pacific, which relatively to them makes us a little bit weaker. The British government is interested in buying the rights to improve shell quality. By all means, I'm not going to go to war, and they're our allies. So we'll get a little bit of money there. Go ahead and resume construction on both of these now. We'll have 2 months worth of money to do that. And then our other ships will start coming on the ways. Oh, great. So our brand new light cruiser class is having trouble reaching its design speeds. That's always fun. Let's see. The Naval Secretary believes submarines are key to victory in a future war. He wants you to build at least 21 additional submarines. We do half of that? Of course, sir. Well, that gets me prestige. So we're going to do the of course, sir. We almost balanced our budget, and just as we almost balance our budget and get the Lightning Dragons underway, we have these new insane requests to build 21 submarines. So we're going to go ahead and halt these things again. So the most delayed ship in history. And then we're going to go ahead and build 21 mid-range submarines. I do agree with the Naval Secretary that they would be incredibly useful in any war, given that our fleet is so far behind many of the other fleets. But 21 seems like I don't know why I have to give a name. Apparently we've run out of names for our submarines, so we'll name that one Up Yours. Yes, I didn't spell it right. IOU. Apostrophe. Whatever. All right, so we're building 21 more subs. We're meeting the request there. Actually, despite all of that building, we are still in the black. So we're going to have 51 submarines, by the way, which is going to give us a kick-ass submarine fleet. No one else is going to be close. Only France is remotely close. So if we do go to war, we're going to sink the fuck out of any enemy merchant ships. Meanwhile, actually, we still have enough money left to resume construction on the Lightning Dragon, which is awesome. All right, improved depth charges. Let some of these other ships finish their working up. Japan is hosting an international regatta. Well-trained crews favored to win. What do you want to do? Go for the win, of course. I'm not going to let them win. All right. U.S. government wants to sell us the right to target designator. 0.7 million, of course. The more technology we can get, the better. Also want to buy the rights to above water tubes for light cruisers. By all means, I need the money. Go ahead and resume construction on the ever-delayed Longstreet. And several light cruisers are coming to completion. All of these new light... You're receiving much praise for building the requested number of submarines. Hooray! I don't know why insulting the British improves my prestige, but I'm all for improving my prestige. We'll do it. All right, so the only two ships we're building now are these Super Dreadnought type ships, but we don't have a lot of money left over, so reliable power training. We need that technology. It's at a reasonable price. We'll buy everything from everybody. A new cruiser from France has just arrived. What do we say? That's the best that the French can come up with? Of course, I feel like insulting them would be roughly appropriate, given that we recently fought a war against them. During a coronation review, there's been a collision between one of our ships and Germany. Nobody's fault. I'm not going to take a prestige hit. Be great if my unrest level went down more, though. Uprising in China means we should send an expeditionary force. Send a strong one. Give us some prestige. They want to sell us the rights to the lengthened torpedo tubes. We're getting all this technology. I don't know how much of it's going to end up in any ships that we build. Superimposed turrets on heavy cruisers. Thought I already have that. Maybe not. All right. And our submarine fleet is finally completed. Oh, I don't know what I just researched. That last thing. Anyway. Okay, so with all those subs coming off the ways, we now have $3.8 million left over to spend. I don't really want to build a new heavy cruiser class. I think what we've got is good enough. We have quite a few Shenandoahs. We've got a lot of destroyers. I mean, we've got. I'm pretty happy with the fleet composition. We could probably build a new Dreadnought class ship, although we've got two Lightning Dragons under construction. We could add a third Lightning Dragon. I know we've gotten new technologies in the 2 years since we started construction on it. I don't know what I would do differently, other than maybe give it a little bit more armor. Probably speed it up a little bit too if we made it a little bit bigger. No, not really. Maybe give it a better no, that's the best fire control. Frankly, I think this is still probably the best design that I can build without spending more time than I want to on this. Let's build a third Lightning Dragon, so we've got 3 Dreadnoughts. All right, there you go. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for this episode of Rule the Waves in our Confederate Let's Play series. Today we designed and started building our first, what I would call, Super Dreadnought class, the Lightning Dragon class. It's over 40,000 tons and has a very impressive armament. It also has very impressive speed. This is going to be, I think, the core of our Navy going forward. I don't think there's going to be a good reason to redesign this ship. I don't think technology is going to advance enough for the next 5 years before the game ends to require us to replace it. So I think this is going to be the culmination of our battle fleet, but we'll see. We'll see how things play out. With that being said, that is going to wrap it up for this episode, however. So as always, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode, are continuing to enjoy this series, and until next time, this is the Historical Gamer, as always, thanking you guys very much for tuning in, and until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying, I'm out.